AC Central. Hey, so AC Central, it's your birthday as well as like it's time for your portfolio review. So everyone wish AC Central a happy birthday. And but how will you know how much it needs? So because you need the geometry in order for it to function visually. If it looks really low poly, then you're not using enough. I guess that's one of the ways of doing it. You son of a gun. That's awesome, Spec. Okay, so Arthur or AC Central. Let's take a look here while I go through your answers. So you've always been passionate about video game environments. It's such a cool way to let people explore new horizons by enjoying a beautiful game. With this passion, I started experiencing 3D 3D softwares like Blender at first during COVID quarantine. Oh, so you're a quarantine artist. Man, there's a good amount of those. It's pretty cool. I've seen people that were chefs literally go from being fired to I'm going to learn 3D. And now they're even in the industry already. It's crazy. Yeah, quarantine artists. Totally fine. It's cool as well. It's nice that there's something you could do while you were stuck at home, right? Yeah, so around March 2020. So let's see here. Then I tried several other softwares to make some cool stuff like Marvelous Designer, Substance Painter, Unreal Engine. Next time, I'd like to learn Houdini and have a cool scene in work in progress for this purpose. So right off the bat, just from those messages, because you're quote unquote new, I wouldn't say you're relatively new to 3D. Don't worry about learning all the software. Just like, if you're in Blender and you've got Marvelous Designer, Substance Painter, and Unreal, that's kind of all you need for a while. You know what I mean? So just think about like there's a lot to explore and grow just in those tools. Like you could spend your whole life expanding on all of those tools. What or where do I want to go? I want to improve my 3D. I want to improve myself in 3D and perhaps try to improve my environments renders since I love environments, especially uncommon ones. Oh, interesting. Man, you should enter the challenge that I announced just a little bit ago. I think it'd be really fun because you don't have to make assets so much as like focus on like using Unreal and composition and lighting and all that. So what specifically are you looking for feedback on? I'd like to know how my artworks could stand out from the crowd, how to make them unique. I also would like to know what I'm doing wrong and how I can improve those points. In addition, I'd like to know if you can give me some key tips on making a video game. So making a video game is a huge topic. The key tips I think right now is to just get really good at like building environments. And then from there, you can expand. You can expand into other fields and understanding of game development. And of course, once your art is really strong, and let's say you're in the industry, you'll exponentially learn how other disciplines inside of the field help you and themselves achieve an actual game. So just focusing on yourself and the content and making good work and progressing your skills, that's how I would start. I'm currently making a small project with a gameplay at a pretty advanced state for now, and I think I will publish some devlogs once. I mean, if you're going for it, that's totally cool. But just remember that it's not necessarily that you're spreading yourself thin, but you can only spread yourself in certain areas at a time. You know what I mean? Like if you're focusing on gameplay, then you can't really focus on 3D. You can focus on 3D when you're not focusing on gameplay, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like it's thinking about how to manage your time. And if you want to move quickly, it's usually better to, instead of going wide like that, it's usually better to like spearhead into a very specific role, like you've mentioned with environments, for example. The challenge is not public yet. I'll post it after the stream. But yeah. Soon public. Yes, thank you, Ollie. But yeah, and finally, let's see here. I have 3 work in progress scenes in my folders, with another environment, a ship battle scene, and a Formula 1 scene. The 3D modeling has been done. I just need to texture and render. Thanks a lot for taking the time to give me some feedback. Okay, so let's look at this portfolio. So we've got a plethora of things, which is usually pretty common when you're first getting into 3D. You're saying you want to get into environment art, and I guess the end goal is to actually make some games yourself. I would suggest unifying your direction, like I was saying earlier. So right now you've got an environment, you've got a weapon, a character. It looks like you were exploring realistic fur. You've got a prop, another prop. And this is just going off of thumbnails, of course. So some abstract landscape. This is quite interesting, actually. Polar landscape with a red planet, procedural 3D landscapes. Red ship sailing through green islands. I'm curious about that one. And then you've got some Assassin's Creed fan work, as well as Project M. So let's. I'm curious about this one. 3D environment created in Blender and composed in Photoshop. I mean, this is pretty. I would say this is quite advanced for someone who, when you posted this, had not even been in Blender for more than a year and a few months. It's pretty crazy. So with this type of image, it's more about the understanding of fundamentals and like how lighting works and like the color of the sun, how the atmosphere, like how stuff looks as it goes further back in atmosphere. And yeah, so it's definitely more fundamentals, but you're already creating content that's quite interesting, and it's more about the fundamentals themselves. The one thing I would highlight is the spacing between all of these is quite even. So getting some, like, looking at composition, right? Like, where was that? So this is the challenge, but I'm going to show you this. So looking at composition, you can actually kind of expand the quality of your work just by framing things in different ways. So, for example, what you have going on right now is very, I just tab over, yeah, is very like, these all kind of feel like they're on the same plane. And getting some depth and distance, like this one looks like it's a little bit further, but if it could go even further, you get that separation. And like this one right here, like the steel yard, is very much like a big object and then smaller objects, or pushing an object further back. Like maybe this is the small object, and this one, imagine taking this and getting it really close so it becomes like part of the frame. Just thinking about layering and how your environment is kind of composed. So I see 1, 2, and 3 layers, but understanding how those layers are composed in themselves and how they would be composed. Like, look at places that are like this in real life, like through like Google Maps or photos, and see how they are naturally positioned. Like, why are these, tall like this while everything around them is short or has lowered, right? Has eroded away. And where are they positioned? Because I'm pretty sure there's places like that. Like, I think in China there's a place like this. But yeah, so if we'll look around a bit more, I think when we look at individual props, it becomes very clear actually that your understanding of materials is not all that bad. There's some issues with like areas being really dark, and how you're deciding to do the detail on the surfaces, but actually you're doing a pretty good job of like material type. Like this almost looks like a stylized type of thing with some substance painter and blender. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of how to. So understanding your materials, I think Beyond Good and Evil 2 style 3D weapon. Depending on the weapon that we're looking at, I don't know. Like, there's no references in here showing us the weapon that you built or that you based it off of, right? So I don't know if this is actually executed well or if it's not, if that makes sense. And the materials that I'm seeing here are pretty good. I would love to see some maps. That way I could, like, some actual texture maps. That way I can understand more about how you're thinking about your materials, how you're dealing with your UVs. This looks pretty high poly. That faceting there makes me think that maybe you baked and this wasn't subdivided or something. It's not a reproduction, but an inspiration. Oh, okay. But I'm curious about this one as well. Yeah, because with this prop, there's some care put into the modeling. Oh my God, that's you went for it. That's awesome. So when someone's learning 3D, this is the type of stuff I would say just do it. Just try it. Like, you don't have to texture. Just get really comfortable in 3D and just modeling things. How do I make this happen? Like, how do I make this material? Not as a texture, but how would I model that? These are the types of things. Like, I have no idea how I would do that because I don't ever, you know what I mean? But exploring 3D and manipulation of geometry is key early on in your 3D. Oh, this is really cool. I want to see, so abstract 3D landscape generating Gaia. So you're playing with Gaia. That's cool. Add some details and more made with Blender and Substance Painter, rendered in Blender cycles. I would love to see breakdowns of this. So it's like understanding what it looked like in Gaia. How do you get it in Substance Painter? What did it look like in Blender? What do your texture maps look like? How did you prop the rest of the scene, like these props here? I like the addition of like the birds and these like storytelling elements. The scale is very strange for me. Like, I don't know, like these scale wise look large, but I can't tell. They look larger than the scale of these, so these feel wrong to me, but I don't know. And I don't know is this like small little plants or are these like bushes or are they trees? You know what I mean? So getting a context for scale is going to be really important. Let's check out this lantern. Or lamp. This golden magical lamp. Looks pretty cool. So again, I'm seeing some interesting things. And there's some nice details. I want to see more. I want to see what it looks like. What's the wireframe look like? Is it really high poly? It looks like it's really high poly. Like, these look like they're curve strokes turned into geometry. And then maybe you're doing an auto unwrap or you've manually unwrapped and now you're texturing it. Adding logic to these scratches and maybe like what was the original color of it, right? And then the aging process and what that does to the material. And then if it's like the lamp that you've rubbed to, get the genie out of the bottle, where that rubbing occurs, is there a different color that would happen on that part of the metal? Those types of things. To see these gems as well, where they're placed in the surface. Right now they're just placed, but like, wouldn't they be more embedded and or like have like some type of clasp thing that holds them in place? Those types of details and drawing logic into the way everything is kind of connected together is really important. Like, it's the same with these scratches. Like, they're kind of everywhere, and the surface detail, while interesting, is also kind of nonchalant. Like, it just kind of happened all over, instead of like with purpose and reason and understanding as to why they happened, where they happened. You can tell stories in surfaces when you can't in an environment, if that makes sense. So if it's just a prop, tell me a story, even if it's just through the roughness. Let's see what else we got here. This one I wanted to look at as well. So this one's really cool, and there's a lot of like such wise words. Oh, thanks, man. Uh, this one's really interesting because you're thinking in logic of like how locations are created, form naturally in real life. Like with like let's say you've got all these like micro islands all over the place, some archipelago action going on. The fall off into the water and what you're deciding to put under the water and what's peeking out of the water speaks volumes about the references that you might be looking at. And I would suggest really like dialing in reference usage. Like if you want to build a place like this, if this is the thing you have in your mind, their idea, pulling up references is going to give you so many ideas as well as logic to like why things are where they're at and what they tend to look like, what their size is, the shapes that they tend to form. It basically references inform you on basically everything that you can't think of on your own. And if you do think of it on your own, it's just because you've gotten comfortable with that specific topic, right? You've specialized at that point. But no matter how specialized you are, you should always have references. Always dig deeper. Always try and find more information through references that helps inform your work so that you're pushing yourself further than what you're comfortable with. Like, for example, this scene is pretty cool. I feel like you probably didn't learn too much between these two. Like they're basically the same thing. The terrain is just a little different, and you use the same technique for putting foliage on the tops, right? Adding water is really nice, and I think you probably got it from the work you did here. Combining that, all those understandings, and your now knowledge of like how you build things, and then looking at references will be able to push you even further. But yeah, it's really cool to see you growing here. So let's look at the Assassin's Creed stuff, and then I think we can get out of here. That'll give me a little bit of time to do the get the challenge up on the Discord. But yes, Project M with a budget of $200. That's impressive. Oh, this is super cool. Wow, you're really going for it. So are you just walking around in the streets, or have you actually got all like the climbing and stuff in? Yeah, so see these are breakdowns. So these are asset breakdowns. This is called a technical breakdown. I think you should always show asset breakdowns, technical breakdowns when it's something interesting. A technical breakdown makes sense. Yeah, like this. Dude, this is sick. Look at that. Natural variation. You're like expanding into more of the technical aspects of things when it comes to like how you build large scale environments. Holy cow. Okay, so this is amazing and also terrifying because I don't know how, like, I guess naturally it would detail itself out based off of like how you smartly build an asset to be like a smart asset with like auto propping around the buildings and whatnot. But I would hyper focus on like a square and maybe like a few streets connected to it, because then you can really like turn up the quality. And if you build those while you're building those, if you build them in a way where it scales nicely, then later you can push this even further. You can climb, but I didn't make the characters animations. It's from an asset pack. That's totally fine. Man, that's really cool. I'm super curious now. Man, that's this is actually pretty amazing. Yeah, so It's definitely, you're already running pretty far ahead with a lot of stuff, and it's the smaller things. Look at that cool kid. It's the smaller things like this rug here, not touching the, like those are the things to really nail down before you try to expand outwards like this. Maybe it's a flying carpet. I don't know, dude. This is this you? Is this? Am I seeing a star in the making? Please tell me this is you. This is pretty cool. Look at that title. I created Assassin's Creed Rift before its launch. That's amazing. Yes, it's me, dude. You're a baller. Your editing skills, man. Look at that. Oh man, this is really cool. So yeah, I mean, really focus in on like the quality of your content, and then you can scale it like that very easily later. But yeah, yeah. I've talked with you about this shot before, so I'll leave this one alone. I do like that you're doing these like composition breakdowns for like how you end up building the shots, and I love that you add birds to all of your scenes. This is pretty impressive though for like where you're at in the world of like jumping into 3D. This is really cool stuff. But okay, I think we're gonna end it there. What do you think about the polar scene? The polar scene. Oh, this one. I could look at that real quick. So the planet's really cool. The shapes of the clouds, building some logic into the directions that they move in, will probably help. Just because you want it to be more familiar, right? Compositing of a backdrop. That was kind of cool. So the shapes of this feel like terrain generation, and then you just put like ice snow shader on it. You know what I mean? Getting that like getting that material to not only read but like be on shapes that make sense. Like see how these kind of like fall off like this? Usually they just shear off and they break off into pieces. And this again goes back to references and like figuring out through references how these are shaped. Because if this is like a ice planet, like these, I'm imagining these are all like glaciers, right? I wonder if I can, let me just pull this over here. I can't even spell glaciers. Let's go. Um, cool. I mean, this all kind of works. So you can see with these, they're quite sheared off, and there tends to be this like crazy subsurface like bluish tint to everything. Getting stuff that's familiar like this will really help sell this look. Like imagine if you could just have a piece that you've pre-split and it just having it fall and like dip into the water and just doing this like particle effect of like the stuff the water splashing out, and so you could do some really cool stuff. Man, look at this one. That is crazy. Or like, but I think you get the idea. It's looking at references to really like drive home the shape language that tells us what we're looking at. Because right now it just looks like a mound of snow on it, and I don't have a sense of scale. If there was something in here that could give us a sense of scale, I mean, I know this is some other planet, so there wouldn't really be human things here, would there? Anyways, otherwise the water looks pretty cool. It looks pretty calm there, but very cold. Should I use ArtStation to get reference images or not? No, I would use like Pinterest and Google. Just searching. You want to find real photos of places. If you use ArtStation, you're going to get a lot of concept art, which tends to be more skewed towards a specific direction that artist was going. AI, I mean, you could use AI, but again, that's a generated image, right? It's not like real referenced content in that sense. But yeah, yeah, Robin, that's what I was feeling as well. I'm trying to see. Oh, nice West posting things. Um, hmm. There is. Uh, I'll have to remember it. I'll message you about it later. Pinterest. Okay, so Amit posted in chat. Pinterest stock footage sites for photographers are a good place to look. Yeah, definitely. Also, if you're looking for props specifically, looking at like auction sites or like vintage places is really good as well because I have really really high res content, really high res images that are free to grab usually. But cool. Okay, I think we are good to go here.